Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today we're going to be talking about the doctor who created a distraction so his friends could throw a little tea party over in Boston. Today's subject is Dr. Thomas Young, and Dr. Thomas Young reminds me a lot of Sam Adams and Thomas Paine in the fact that he was always rebelling against something. There was always some kind of status quo he needed to shake up. So, for example, he grew up and became a doctor on the New York side of the New York-Connecticut border, and he became friends with a young Ethan Allen. And Ethan Allen would famously go on to be a leader of the Green Mountain Boys in the early Revolutionary War and a leader in the establishment of Vermont. But at this point, they were young men, and first he convinced Allen to become a deist, which was a religion that had a little bit of, we'll call it counterculture popularity at the time. Ben Franklin considered himself a deist. Thomas Jefferson is understood to be a deist. It wasn't unheard of, but especially in New England and New York, you had a real religion. I'm gonna leave it at that. But they wrote a book. It wouldn't get published till about a decade later. They wrote a book about deism. Also, at a time where inoculations were questionable. Thomas Young inoculated Ethan Allen in public for smallpox, despite it being illegal. So he liked to shake things up. Anyway, he soon moves to Albany, New York for about a year. And it was while he's here, he joins the Sons of Liberty. And Albany, New York had a surprisingly active Sons of Liberty. It's one of those cities that's overlooked a lot in the Revolution, despite its importance. And Thomas Young not only riles people up there, but he apparently there was a thing, it's called the Albany Constitution, and it wasn't a constitution as in a type of government. It was more like a resolves that they would later become fairly popular. And they have this resolution declaring their rights as Englishmen to not have this tax and not have that tax and blah, blah, blah. Kind of the standard fare you hear. But Thomas Young went there, joined the Sons of Liberty, and was a major force behind the writing of that document. And there's a lot of names on that document who would later go on to become really important founders of the United States. But Young wasn't satisfied in Albany, so he goes to Boston, and he joins the Sons of Liberty there, because that's where things are really getting rowdy. And Thomas Young seems like the type of doctor who wanted to get rowdy. So he goes and he joins the Sons of Liberty. He works very closely with Sam Adams and Dr. Joseph Warren. And then eventually there's a Boston Tea Party. So what Dr. Young is doing at the time, it had become in fashion to say tea was not healthy. Now, part of this was doctors who were really trying to figure things out at a time where medicine was very different than it is now. And they thought, hey, maybe it's all the tea we're drinking. And it kind of became almost like we might consider booze today, where it's like, yeah, you can drink some beer, but in moderation. It's not going to be good for you if you drink too much of it. So, Dr. Thomas Young was giving a speech on this very topic in front of a large crowd right about the time that a bunch of other patriots are just as Native Americans dumping tea off of boats in the harbor. Now, it has been speculated, and there's no proof of this, because the whole point of it was to keep your identity secret, but it's speculated that Thomas Young might have been one of the main organizers, if not possibly, although this is a bold statement, perhaps the main organizer of the Boston Tea Party. And the fact that he gave the speech had the double effect of criticizing tea, so we care about taxes, you shouldn't be drinking it anyway. But, more importantly, he may have been giving himself an alibi so that no one accused him of dumping the tea. Because he wasn't dumping the tea. It seems like, may have told people to go dump tea while I'm giving this speech about how terrible tea is for you. So, shortly after this, Young actually goes to Philadelphia. And he becomes still more active in the revolution there. He has a small role in creating Pennsylvania's first state constitution. He very early on is pushing for independence. He is saying that pretty much right from the get-go, as soon as he's in Philadelphia, which is before independence, of course, was a popular concept. Young also is then appointed, and what was the position? I want to get it exactly right. Senior surgeon to the Continental Hospital in Philadelphia. I knew it was Continental Hospital, just couldn't remember the exact title. Senior surgeon to the Continental Hospital in Philadelphia, which means he's the head doctor in the city that at the time was the default capital. I should say de facto capital, probably. Unfortunately, there are sick people coming in the hospital, and Dr. Young caught a sickness, and he passed away very shortly thereafter. And with that, fell out of popularity among founder fans, as most founders I discuss have. He has kind of fallen out of the background of history, which is a shame, because Dr. Young was a extremely important rabble-rouser at a time where, for the American Revolution to even begin, you needed people rabbling that rouse, so to speak, if that's a thing. I feel like I'm clever with my words, but that's not always the case. So that, in essence, is the unfortunately brief life of Dr. Thomas Young. Now, about 10 years after his death, Ethan Allen would go on to publish the book they wrote together about deism after the war ended, after the revolution concluded. Of course, Ethan Allen got a lot of trouble about it, which I need to make a video about Allen, because while he was a hero at first, he did things like publish this book on deism, and people were like, no. No, what a bad idea. But anyway, I'm going to conclude with that. Dr. Thomas Young, who may have been one of the important creators of the Boston Tea Party, and was certainly distracting the crowd so that the partiers could throw their tea. Before I go, I do want to mention, I've been floating the idea of doing a live video about my weekly wrap-ups. I am going to do that. I've decided instead of Friday, like I was saying, I'm sorry for being wishy-washy on it, but instead of doing Friday, I'm going to do Saturday at 2. So, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, this Saturday, the 18th of January, 2020 now. Feel free to join me. You can ask questions. It'll be about half an hour long. I'm just going to talk about what I wrote about last week and what I learned. And if you're interested in learning about what I wrote about, come talk to me. Ask me questions. I'd really like to be interactive and provide as much information as I can. So thank you for watching this video. My name is Jason, and I will see you tomorrow.